Hello, Stuart, the unrepentant atheist. Welcome to my channel. And this is, I think, the first video I've made in 2 or 3 weeks. For those of you who've been following my channel, thank you for that. And I went through a real kind of binging blitz with making atheist videos. I must have been making one a night for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. And I think really the reason I've not made any videos recently is that I've covered virtually every topic which I really wanted to speak about. And I must say that this whole atheism business has, in a way, got a limited kind of appeal. I I find myself at times struggling to muster up the enthusiasm even to watch the Atheist Experience. And I watched last Sunday's episode, and there were some good calls on there. And but I don't really seem to be getting as much out of it as I used to. I am looking for new material, of course, new channels, etc. So, but yeah, it's a kind of it's a kind of limited. It's got limited appeal because, of course, we all know we all know the main arguments, and if you've been following the debate between atheism and theism for any length of time and watched as much as I have, or even a fraction of what I've watched, you will already be aware of all the arguments. So I suppose really what we're looking for is a kind of, I don't know, uh, maybe presentation. Somebody comes along with a new angle, not necessarily a new angle, but a new way of uh, presenting their rebuttals. And there have been one or two new names who've appeared recently, which I've found quite interesting. I actually find it very interesting when ex-Christians make their own channels, and not only that, but quite well-known ex-Christians like Paul Olgier. I've subscribed to his channel. He apparently knew William Lane Craig, and I find him I find him good to listen to. But anyway, I'm digressing. Let me just get on to what I want to talk about. I'm sorry. Try and pull myself together. Okay, so the Watchmaker argument. I want to come back to that because I was watching a episode of the Atheist Experience, I think from about 18 years ago. This one had Jeff D on it, and I thought he made a really good point. Somebody came on, you know, and it's funny. It's really funny when a Christian comes on with the Watchmaker argument like you've never heard it before. So this guy came on, and he was talking for about 10 minutes and kind of dancing around a bit. And he said, "All right, guys, okay, okay, now look. Imagine you're walking along a beach, and Jeff D and I think it was Martin Wagner both said in unison, 'Oh, the Watchmaker argument.'" I find it hilarious. But anyway, one good thing did come out of it. Jeff D made a really good point, which I'd like to kind of cover myself because I've never actually heard this put in this particular way. I mean, Martin Wagner has always said, and others have said, that if you're looking at design, you've got to be contrasting it with something. Or, yes, we recognize design in a watch, and we know that a human being made this because in all our experience, human designers make watches and nobody else does. They don't occur naturally, which really nails it, doesn't it? It really nails the argument because you're not picking up something which occurs naturally and finding it on the beach and recognizing design. You're picking up something which is man-made. And so the whole argument is immediately defeated. But he did say one thing which I thought was really good. Now, in the creationist worldview, God not only designed human beings. God designed everything. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make any sense to have a creator who's also an intelligent designer who created organic life forms, but didn't design anything else. That doesn't make any sense. if you've got a creator, he created everything, not just human beings. He also designed everything, including grains of sand. Now, if we go back to the watchmaker argument, the argument is you walk along the beach, you find a watch, you pick it up, you can see that it's got a purpose. It's got a dial on it, it's got 12 digits, it's got two hands, and it's obviously designed in order to tell the time. Its purpose is as a time-telling instrument. That's why it was designed. That's why it was manufactured. It has a function. It has a use. Okay? So we recognize it's been designed. We know it's been designed by a human being because all watches are designed by human beings. But the principle is that it's got to have a purpose. It has to have a use. Okay. Let's take a grain of sand. So we find a watch. Now, in the creationist worldview, not only watches are designed, not only people are designed, but everything is designed. So you pick up a grain of sand, it's designed. So walking on a beach, you're just as likely to pick up a grain of sand as to pick up a watch, because in your worldview, if everything's designed, then frankly, a grain of sand is on exactly the same level as a watch, right? But you pick that grain of sand up and look at it under a magnifying glass, and you say, okay, if it's designed, it must have a purpose. What was it designed for? With a watch, you can say it's designed for telling the time. So let's take things in nature. Let's take a grain of sand. What was this grain of sand designed for? You're immediately stumped because you realize that grain of sand has got no use whatsoever. If we're saying that only things which have got a use and a purpose have been designed, clearly a grain of sand has not been designed. We know where grains of sand come from. They come from rocks, which obviously are knocked around in the ocean, and eventually they break down, they become grains of sand. Okay, what is a rock designed for? It's not. Rocks are obviously not designed either. And we can go through inanimate, inorganic objects in nature, and we can't find that they're designed for anything in particular. But let's go a step further and ask whether not only inanimate objects in nature are obviously not designed because they haven't got any purpose, they haven't got any use. But I would submit that organic organisms also have no purpose. If there's a God and he designed human beings, what did he design them for? Okay, intelligent design people will take the eye and say, okay, well, the eye must have been designed because obviously it has a function, it has a purpose, and the purpose is to allow a human being to see. Fine. But you don't take individual parts of an organism and point to design. You take the whole organism and you say, what is the purpose of that organism? Why was it designed? Assuming there's a designer. And I would ask you, what is a human being designed for? A human being, and not only a human being, but other life forms, in fact, maybe every life form, doesn't actually have a specific purpose. The only purpose they've got is to continue living and to reproduce. And it would be fairly meaningless to say, for example, well, the purpose of a human being is simply to continue living and to reproduce, because that is the purpose of every single living organism. And you can't, if you're saying that every single different living organism has got exactly the same purpose, then essentially you're saying that they're all the same. And there would be no need for variation in design. It would be enough just to have one simple living organism to fulfill that purpose. So I would submit, in fact, that in reality, that living organisms don't have any specific function or purpose, only to live and to reproduce. And I would not really say, from the argument I've just presented, that that is not comparable with a watch, which is a whole mechanical thing which has been designed and which has a specific function. It has a purpose, and its purpose is to tell the time. Any one of those little cogs has got a job, sure, just like the eye. but the overall mechanism, the overall non-organic organism, if you like, has actually got a purpose. And it's the same with everything else outside of nature, which human beings design. Like, for example, this tape dispenser has got a purpose. It was designed for a purpose to allow the user to put Scotch tape in it and to pull a piece of Scotch tape out. It's heavy, so it stays on the desk. So when you pull it, you can actually pull a piece of Scotch tape and tear it with one hand. It's well designed. It's got a design. It's got a purpose. That has got more design and purpose than a human being. Consequently, you can't argue that organic organisms have been designed and were not a product of intelligent design. That is a product of intelligent design. It has a purpose. But human beings are not, and living organisms are not. What do you think of that, guys? Do you think this has all come really from what Jeff D is saying? I've really just kind of formulated it in the last couple of days. I'm sure there probably is a flaw in it, but maybe there isn't. Or let me know what you think. So let me just move on quickly because I've got one or two other things to talk about. Efficacy of prayer. I know I've spoken about it before. Most people, when they get to my age, I'm 58, nearly 58, I've got some kind of medical problem or other, even if it's just having to wear glasses. Eyesight goes with age. In my case, I've got this annoying condition in my ear called tinnitus. It's a kind of I don't know. It's a kind of ringing sound, which I'm coping with fairly well. It's not really too big a deal. I mean, with some people, it is a big deal because it's literally like 2 burglar alarms going off in your ear. And obviously, when it's on that kind of level, it's very serious. You can't even live your life. In my case, it's like a kind of light hiss, like tss, tss. That's what it sounds like all the time. I mean, I've had it for 6 months now, and I'm used to it. But I'm a member of 2 Facebook groups and also an online forum for tinnitus. And particularly on the Facebook groups, I've noticed mainly people from Hispanic countries or southern Mediterranean countries or third world countries will come on and say, I'm praying to God every day. I'm praying for all of you to make this better and to make this horrible condition go away. And I reply sometimes, maybe I shouldn't really, but I often reply to the extent, look, praying won't do you any good for this. There are Christian parents whose children are dying in cancer wards. Their heads have been shaven. They'll never see another Christmas. They're in excruciating pain. They're being given drugs. They're on stage 4 cancer. There's no cure for them. They're going to die. They are not going to see many more sunrises. And you're praying because you've got a ringing sound in your ear. If there is a God, I'm pretty sure that he's going to put those children first. And he's going to go to the children who are dying of cancer. He's not going to come to you with a bit of ringing in your ear, no matter how disturbing you find it. So I'm sorry, but praying is not going to do you any good. Because if there was a God and he's allowing children to die in cancer wards, he's allowing children to be raped and brutalized, etc. He's an immoral God. And some have said to me, well, why do you say that? Because, God got the whole thing going and he just lets it run, and whatever happens, happens. And I say to them, well, God is holding us to a standard of morality, and he's got to practice what he preaches. And that if he's holding us to a high standard of morality, whereby if we witness child abuse, we're morally obliged to do something about it, either to try and stop it or to report it. And it would be illogical not to expect the same standard of morality from a God. And if God exists and he's not doing that, then he's immoral. But because a God can't be immoral, and these things are happening, one can only assume that there's no God. So I've made that argument quite a few times. Some have come back and, they've not really been able to say much about it. In fact, most don't really reply to it. Some others sometimes reply and say, yeah, that's correct. There's no God. That's why children are dying of cancer. And that's why there's so much illness in the world. And coming back to design, if there is a design, human beings have got such poor design. We're so susceptible to all these illnesses. Okay, moving on. So Matt, I don't know if you watched the Atheist Experience. He's got a patch over his eye. I believe that he's experiencing double vision. And, I've been sending him my best wishes, and he's going in for an MRI. I believe this may be something to do with he's a diabetic, and I believe it may have something to do with that. But for goodness sake, Matt, stay alive. I know you've had an operation recently. Don't die on us, at least not now. Wait at least 20 or 30 years, because I do believe that the atheist movement needs you. Not the least that if you do die, no doubt Christians will be coming on saying, "Oh, you see, you should have, you've been stricken down because you turned to the dark side." No, for goodness sake, Matt, stay alive. Good luck with that MRI, and I hope it resolves itself, whatever it is. Oh yeah, and there was one other thing on one of these forums that I was on. Somebody was feeling sorry for himself and saying again about religion. How can you all live? How can you all live and be happy knowing that one day you're going to die? And I replied to that, and I said, well, I said that the reason I can live happily is because I don't know when I'm going to die. I said, if I knew I was going to die tomorrow, or if I knew I was going to die in 6 months' time, or if I knew I was going to die in a year, I would find it very, very difficult to live happily as I do now. Well, when I say happily, relatively happily, I would not be able to live in any reasonable kind of way if I knew what the date of my death would be. Because I'm in ignorance of that, therefore I can live quite happily. And he also, implied, yeah, but it's going to, life is going to come to an end. How can you, knowing that life is going to come to an end, what's the point in enjoying it? And my point there was, well, look, when you go to a party, you go knowing that it's going to an end. You know it's going to an end, but it doesn't stop you from enjoying it. So anyway, I hope that helped that particular person on that forum. It probably won't, because when you're not feeling well and you're feeling ill, you tend to look at things very negatively. And I tried to stay positive, even with the condition that I've got. And I mean, if I had a much worse condition, I don't know what my mental state would be, but I'm reasonably healthy apart from that. So guys, that's it for now. I better upload this and let me know what your thoughts are. Look forward to reading your comments. Bye.